So, are you buying or selling Arizona as a top contender in this conference? We have a lot more to talk about. Fallout from the K-State game as well, all in 30 seconds. Don't you go anywhere. It's the AZ Wildcats podcast.
Welcome in, everybody, to the AZ Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Damon Fairall, with my guy, Kevin Thomas. As always, Kevin, still a little sick boy, at home, just working on recovering. You didn't listen to me last night when I told you drink some Pedialyte. You didn't do any of that.
I mean, I did some of it. I hydrated really well yesterday, Damon. Didn't really get good sleep. I've been taking lots of hot showers, trying to steam my sickness out of me. So yeah, man, we're struggling over here, man. It's a long fight, but it's all good.
You need a trip to like the sauna or something.
I was actually thinking that this morning. I was like, maybe after the show, I'll head to the gym and hop in the sauna or something.
You got a gym membership?
I do have a gym membership. I don't use it like I should, but I do have one.
Where at? No free ads, but where at?
No free ads, but it's the 3-letter one that it's really like weird to pronounce. It's EOS.
Oh, I got you. There's 2 vowels at the beginning.
Sure. Yes. That's where I should have went with. Yes.
I got you. We could, you know what? Maybe we get our guy Max to maybe try to sell a sponsorship to those guys, because that is a pretty it's a Phoenix staple, I'd say, a Valley staple there. But yeah, maybe hit that sauna, Kevin, because we need you right by Saturday. I'll tell you that much.
I know. I'm gonna get right.
I mean, the other days it is what it is. We got to do what we got to do, but I need you right by Saturday, because I'll tell you what, the Cats missed you on yesterday for that Kansas State loss.
I know, and maybe if I was around, it would have been different, Damon. Maybe if I was around, it would have been different.
People are talking about that. People are saying, did Kevin and his inability to power through his sickness, did that cost the Wildcats their win streak and their possession of first place of the Big-12?
Dang. I mean, I feel bad. I would feel really bad if that was the case, I never would want that to happen to my Wildcats, but sometimes, your immune system just isn't up to snuff, isn't up to par.
I heard that it got back to the team and that everybody was like, oh, if Kevin's not going to work hard, then why do we have to?
Dang. Whatever. Yeah. I get it. If I can't even stay healthy, how are they supposed to not turn the ball over? How are they supposed to, not shoot like 1 for 22? So
makes you think.
It is what it is. Sometimes fans have a bigger effect on the game than we think.
Yep. But obviously Arizona loses last night's game to Kansas State, 73-70. And yeah, it was a not very good performance from Arizona last night, Kevin, especially on the offensive side of the ball. You had a lot of guys that, really struggled from an offensive standpoint, from a shooting standpoint, from a turnover standpoint, right? Like even Jaden Bradley has a good game for, a scoring perspective. He scores 13 points. That's slightly above his average, albeit on not the best efficiency, but he turns the ball over 5 times. And that's just an example. I'm not singling out Jaden Bradley, but it's just going to show that even our most steady player, wasn't really on his A game last night. And I mean, it was a overall just big struggle from Arizona's offense in particular. And Kevin, I mean, what was, I guess, one night's sleep off of it, and I know you told me you didn't sleep that well last night, but one night's sleep off of it, how do you feel about the loss this morning?
I shouldn't say better, because I think I feel about the same about it as I did before I went to bed, or tried to, because it was, no matter which way you cut it, right, Damon, the game was there to be won. It wasn't like Arizona was not able to overcome Kansas State in that environment or in that game, right? But I feel like when you turn the ball over as much as Arizona did, when you shoot as many shots and don't make the threes as they did, you don't really deserve to win any game, right? Let me see the stats right here. Kansas State had 23 points off of a turnover. Arizona had just 10. They also had 17 turnovers to Kansas State's 10 turnovers. So overall, Damon, I just, in a game where Arizona out rebounds them by 13 and has more second chance points and more assists, but Kansas State, you can't let them get 14 steals, man. That's unbelievable, right? No. And not how Arizona wants to play. And so, yes, I feel slightly better about it, but we'll get into it later if they really showed any red flags in that game or not. But it was just a very winnable game that I think Arizona is going to look back on. If things go a certain way this year, they're going to look back and be like, wow, that UCLA game, that Kansas State game, damn. I think it's one of those where you kind of look back and you see missed opportunities. And I think this was a missed opportunity for Arizona basketball last night.
I'm definitely with you there. I'm looking here on the Ken Palm win probability chart. And I think with this is looking like how many minutes into this game? Really towards the end of the game here, Arizona had about an 80% chance to win, according to Ken Palm. I'd say that's probably with about, I can't get an exact number here, but I want to say it's about with like 4 minutes left or whatever. And so, yeah, I mean, it was a disappointing one that it feels like you kind of let it slip. Right. And yeah, I mean, Kansas State is a much better team than their record probably indicates, but still a team that Arizona should be beating on paper, even in a crazy environment like, it was last night in the what is it? The Arena of Doom or
Octagon of Doom.
The Octagon of Doom. There we go. So yeah. But I'll be honest, it does hurt a little bit. Like we kind of have like a Wildcats versus Wildcats thing going on. Yeah. They've now beaten us in football and basketball, Kevin.
That's gross.
Granted, both
Arizona, honestly, I mean, I feel differently, but based on the information you just told me, Arizona does not even have a claim to being the best Wildcats in the conference right now.
Yeah, I mean, both true road environments, which does make it a lot tougher because we all know that, Manhattan's a tough place to play in any sport. They have a very passionate fan base, but yeah, man, it feels bad because Arizona was only like, I don't think that they were huge underdogs against Kansas State in football. I think that, Arizona was still at that point ranked. People thought that they were not a horrible football team, which later was to be discovered that they were. And then in basketball, Arizona 3.5-point favorites last night. I believe you bet on Arizona, didn't you?
I did. I got them after Kansas State first basket. The line dropped to 2.5, and I ate that up, thinking, hey, even like a 3-point win, someone's gonna win by 3, right? Yeah, it was just the wrong team. But Damon, I did bet on Arizona last night, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about this later. But that one hurt. That one hurt. The -2.5 hurt. You're feeling great until that goaltending call on Carter Bryant gets taken back off the board, and then all of a sudden, all hell broke loose.
I know this is like a dumb game, and like we obviously will never know the answer to this, but do you realistically think if they don't call that Arizona wins the basketball game? I mean, completely serious.
I know it sounds crazy, but I think so. Like, obviously, you don't know what happens in the second half. Maybe it doesn't matter, and maybe Kansas State wins anyway. But Arizona really did feel like they were about to enter the half up like 11, 13 points. Like they were up 7 at that time, right? And then Kansas State went on 7. 11 to 1 run.
It was 7 post the goaltending being taken off the board. So it was 5.
Yeah. So I feel like Arizona might carry the momentum into the second half and win that game. Arizona still has yet to win a game when trailing at half. So I think it bodes well that if Arizona entered halftime with a lead, they walk out of there with a victory.
Yeah, it's pretty concerning that stat that you just laid out for us, not being able to overcome halftime deficits over the course of half of a college basketball season like that or more than half of a college basketball season now, that has to change. And there's like in the NCAA tournament, there's a good chance that you're going to be down at halftime in a game, and you got to figure it out and find a way to win. So, and honestly, like, I don't have any statistics on this. I would need to look into it more, but it does feel like to me, Kevin, that Tommy Lloyd teams in general, if they don't just come out strong and put it on a team, that if they're like down in a game, typically they're not really mounting comebacks.
I don't.
No.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that, and it's kind of a situation where.
What was the big comeback that comes to mind in this season, past seasons? Like I really can't think of any of them.
Off the top of my head, no. I mean, I'm sure if we looked back at it, there would be a couple, right? I'm sure that just the way that numbers work and averages work, that TCU? Arizona's had at least one or two comebacks, but they're not really the cardiac cats, are they? You know, like it kind of is a team that has to get out early and set a tone and dictate the game based on that tone that they already set. I think Tommy Lloyd spoke about it last night after the game that, look, Kansas State was damn physical, and they made it really hard for Arizona to be secure with the ball. And now Arizona has to do better at taking care of the ball. That's what Tommy Lloyd said. But I think, you know, Arizona's kind of fallen into a pattern of being able to out physical teams early and setting that tone. And I think when K-State flipped the script on them at the end of that first half, I don't know what happened, but they didn't seem like they could get back on track once K-State started to get a little bit more physical than they were.
Yeah. Here, Nick and Arenas in the chat says the UCLA game with T-Mac and Noah out there when they announced their return. Yeah. I mean, that was a full calendar year ago, but yeah, I mean, I guess that's a good example. The one that came to mind was the TCU game where Arizona was down about 10 points to TCU in the tournament and ended up coming out on top in that one. So, you know, I think that there are some examples, but they're somewhat few and far between. You know what I mean? Like I think that Tommy Lloyd's style, it bodes more for, you know, it's more conducive for, you know, getting out to early leads and sustaining that for the remainder of the game. You know, kind of putting it on teams, out physicaling them, as you mentioned. You know, in large part in past years, it's been, you know, just get it to the post players. Like Ballo to Bellis and just let them go to work, Coloco. And yeah, I mean, I think we've seen that at times, like in that, for example, like the West Virginia game comes to mind where Veesaar was just all over the place. And it was clearly just like, our big men are just going to lead us to this victory. But yesterday in a game, you needed your guards and your wings to show up. And I'd say really only KJ Lewis was the one who did so from a, you know, offensive standpoint that you really needed. And that was largely in the second half. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be concerning when teams take away like that inside game for Arizona. How is Arizona going to respond to it? And you know, last night was not a good response to it. But you're going to need we need games like that. And that's part of where the being in the Big 12 helps, Kevin. And we've been pounding this drum for the entire time we've been doing this show. Like, the Big 12, yeah, it's going to lead to some more losses. Yeah, it's not a cakewalk to the Pac-12 regular season and conference tournament title anymore, like it was year in and year out. And that was fun, right? We loved dominating the Pac-12 like that. But that being said, you're not preparing yourself for deep tournament runs because you're going a full 2-month stretch where you're playing teams that are at best bubble teams, right? Yeah. And now, like, you lose to a Kansas State team. Yeah, maybe they're going to be a bubble team at the end of the year, but in a way different way than like Colorado was a bubble team last year or anything like that. Like, Kansas State is above 500 in the toughest conference in America right now. And, you know, they're like, I think that's a good basketball team. If they get in the tournament, that's a team to like watch out for. But that being said, like, getting back to the original point, it will help Arizona get film on how good teams are going to play up against them, how physical teams are going to try to compact the paint and take that aspect away from Arizona. And now Tommy can at least, you know, watch the film and the guys can watch the film and the assistant coaching staff and just figure out what adjustments need to be made moving forward.
And, you know, when you were talking about Arizona's lack of ability to come back in these games, Damon, excuse me. You know what I thought of? I thought of our discussion about Tommy Lloyd's in-game adjustments. And I think maybe these two topics kind of go hand in hand about how if Tommy Lloyd can have a great pregame plan, right? And that, let's say that plan works in the first half, then Arizona is set up for wonderful second half and probably a victory, right? But I think when we talk about Tommy Lloyd, you know, he's not the worst at in-game adjustments, but he just is room for improvement on that side of the clipboard, so to speak. And I think teams that are able to come back are not only the, you know, super talented teams and whatnot, but they're also the coaching staffs that know how to change course, middle of the route. You know what I mean? And I think when we're talking about Tommy Lloyd sometimes struggling with in-game adjustments, I think that is a direct cause of why Arizona might not be a comeback kind of team. Because if the other team can, like, for example, I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but that goaltending call that was taken off the board, right?
Yep.
Clearly, Jerome Tang, in the 30-second timeout that they had, changed some stuff, motivated his guys, altered the direction of that game. And I think that's an area where, as a fan, I feel like maybe Tommy Lloyd could improve. And I'm not talking about the motivation of his guys. I'm talking about the strategical changes. Is that a word? Strategical?
Yeah, I think so.
Strategic. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, you're right.
Sick brain voice. But the strategic changes that I think is where I would love to see more improvement out of Tommy Lloyd. And, we say it every time we talk about it, but I do want to say it. No coach is perfect, right? And Tommy Lloyd is still new to the head coaching game somewhat. And so I think that with more experience and more time, he'll get better at it. But he's not Ty Lue, and that's a fact. You know what I mean? He's not the guy that his best skill is analyzing the opponent and making changes based off of that.
Yeah, actually, it's funny. I was watching the reaction to the Cambridge shot against Arizona, the buzzer beater that ASU hit a couple years ago, and I remember this, but I was rewatching the replay, and there was an assistant coach. I think it was Ricardo Flaw, who is now no longer, I don't believe, with the team anymore. But he got in Tommy's face right after the shot got hit, and was like, "That's why you foul with 3 when you're up 2 or something like that." I think Arizona was only up 2, but he clearly was not happy with the way Arizona allowed ASU the space to get that shot off. Yeah. And I think that's a situation where, like, Tommy Lloyd's going to look at that, and next time Arizona's in a position like that, they'll coach it completely differently. So to your point, like, yeah, Tommy's still a new coach. He's still growing, getting better. And I think that, he'll learn as he goes on. But yeah, right now I wouldn't exactly say that I'm like filled with confidence with his adjustments, or like, one play for the rest of our lives. How are we going to draw it up? I can't say that's something that is like making me, like, it's not filling me with confidence, Kevin.
No. And I think when you talk about and when I talk about learning from past games and past experiences, right? Yes, Tommy Lloyd is doing that, but then he also calls the end of game inbounds play that he called last night. So
yeah,
yes, he's gaining experience, and maybe it can't be applied as quickly as we might like. But yeah, I have full faith that Tommy Lloyd eventually will iron out these little wrinkles in his game. And yeah, it was a tough one last night, because you're watching this game thinking, if Arizona can just alter their offense and stop turning the ball over, there's no reason why they shouldn't win this game outright. And it felt that simple to me. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it wasn't that simple, but the lazy passes, the contested shots, and credit to Kansas State for what they were able to do on the defensive end, because that's a good defensive team. And
for sure,
Arizona doesn't struggle if K-State isn't on it defensively, right? But ultimately, K-State is not the best defensive team that Arizona is going to face all season, right? And so I felt as though in the moment, if Arizona could alter the way that they're getting their shots, or try to find a new spot on the court to get a shot off, it's worth a shot, right? Because you're turning the ball over at the top of the 3. You can't get into the paint, as Damon alluded to last night on our postgame show, because K-State did a great job of swarming the paint as soon as Tobe Awaka caught it, as soon as Veesaar caught it. And yeah, so hats off to K-State for the great defense. But also, I'm worried about that offense, because it didn't seem like they could diagnose a solution to score buckets. I mean, you lose by 3 in a game where let me pull up the stats here. You lose by 3 in a game where you shoot 9% from 3, and you turn the ball over 7 more times than your opponent. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the game was right there. If some small tweaks could have been made, Arizona could have walked out of there with a victory. And that's why I was frustrated last night by it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're 100% on the money there. Like, that was such a winnable game. You lose by 3 in a game. You shoot 9% from 3. That says it all. And I know they only shot 6% as well, but I think Arizona's clearly a better offensive team than Kansas State. So, I think it means more when Arizona misses that many versus when Kansas State does. But running through their quick little win streak, like this is the amount of points they've given up here on this win streak, Kevin. 60 versus West Virginia, 57 versus Oklahoma State, 61 versus Iowa State,
That's impressive.
70 versus ASU, 73 versus Kansas, and 70 versus Arizona. So game in, game out, they're holding their opponents to low 70s, if not less, which is, I'm sure and this partly goes into why they've been the best team in the country over this win streak, is they've probably been the best defense in the country over that win streak. Giving up 57 to a Big 12 opponent, 61 to Iowa State, who at the time was a top 10 team in the country. It still is, I believe, but at the time was top 5. That's wild, man. That's pretty crazy. And yeah, I mean, I know this isn't a Kansas State podcast, but honestly, I hope they make the tournament, Kevin. Like I think that they're a tournament team, and they obviously had a tough start to the year. They play BYU, Utah, ASU, UCF, Colorado, Cincinnati, Iowa State rest of the way. Other than Iowa State, is that every one of the worst teams in the Big 12?
Yeah, that's a really manageable schedule right there. That really is.
I mean, you take care of business versus Utah, ASU, UCF, Colorado. That's 4 W's in that final 7-game stretch. You're 2 games above 500 in the toughest conference in America. You pull off one of those Cincinnati or BYU games. BYU is on the road, Cincinnati also on the road, so going to be tough matchups. But I think if you pull off either one of those, I think that they do make the tournament. Maybe that's naive, but that's kind of where I'm at with it.
And no, I do agree with your assessment of the rest of their schedule and their ability to make the tournament. I hope they make the tournament because I think Jerome Tang's a damn good coach. And I think that he deserves, a little more leeway. And I think making another tournament would maybe buy him some more time.
I think the committee factors in how you're playing at the end of the year versus the beginning of the year. I'm pretty sure. Like, I think that does go into their thought process of bubble teams, who's going to make it versus who doesn't. I think that if they take care of business, say they win 5 of those 7 or 4 of those 7, and then they make a deep run in the Big 12 tournament, I think that would be enough for them. They got to get like top 4 in the Big 12 tournament, something like that. But I think that should do it for them. Will be interesting to see how it plays out there, Kevin. But yeah, I'm a Jerome Tang fan simply because that meme of Jerome Tang, it's not really a meme, but it's more of a video that I send as a reaction video.
That dance?
Oh yeah, where the little baby song's playing and he's just vibing with it. That's like literally, I'm not even kidding. I think that's top 3 favorite video I have on my phone. So I'm a Jerome Tang fan simply because of that. But yeah, he is a damn good coach. Will be interesting to see how it plays out for Kansas State there. But yeah, I think getting back to the game, very winnable for Arizona. Might have let it slip. Did Arizona let their chances of a Big 12 regular season title slip with the loss? Me and Kevin are going to get into that on the other side of this break here after we talk about some fine sponsors on the AZ Wildcats podcast.
Yes, sir, Damon. Yes, sir. And one of our fine sponsors today is going to be our friends over at Branded Bills. If you want to elevate your brand, Branded Bills is the best possible way to do it. Whether you need a snapback, a trucker, a fitted, a beanie, or even a t-shirt, Branded Bills has you covered with performance and style. If you're looking for some gear to make your brand stand apart from the rest, Branded Bills has you covered with the best custom headwear in the game. So start your order from their dedicated team to help you create the exact custom apparel that you need. They have partnerships with U of A. They also do charity work with ASU as a part of their campus collection. It's a local company made right here in Mesa, Arizona. So head to brandedbills.com and use code PHNX for 20% off your first order. And as Damon can tell you, these are literally the most comfortable hats you could ever own. It's truly impressive, the level of comfort that a Branded Bills hat provides. So check out brandedbills.com. Use code PHNX for 20% off that order.
Yeah, I was wearing a Branded Bills hat on last night's post-game show. Check that one out. It has a State of Arizona outline on it with a U of A in the middle. Beautiful, just beautiful. We were out actually at Branded Bills' facility yesterday, Kevin. Met some of the fine folks over there. Got to know them. They gave us some free hats. We made our own hats.
So sad.
It was absolutely electric. And yeah, Mesa, Arizona company. Gotta support local, man. Gotta support local. Another place that I'm going, supporting local as well. Another company that's kind of based out of Arizona, Circle K. Love my friends over at Circle K. I'm an Inner Circle Rewards member, and I used my Inner Circle Rewards last night after postgame. Kevin, I stopped at Circle K and filled up real quick. And guess what? Gas is getting a little bit more pricey. Circle K is going to have you with the lowest possible price on the market. And if you use that Inner Circle Rewards membership, you're going to get 3 cents off per gallon and 5 cents off per gallon when you become a premium member like myself. First 5 fill-ups as well. If you haven't signed up yet, it's going to get you 25 cents off per gallon, which right now that's a big deal. That's going to drop gas down to a little bit more reasonable price from what it is right now. And yeah, you're just going to want to get in on that. Make sure you sign up for the Inner Circle. It's super easy. You can do it on your phone. You can do it at the pump. It's like a 3-step process, and it saves you a lot of money. So sign up for the Inner Circle Rewards now. Stop in at your Circle K. You got one on your way to work, on your way to school, whatever. Circle K is it's going to be right there because there's a Circle K everywhere in this godforsaken city. Join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit circlek.com for more details. Well, Kevin teased it in the last segment, but yeah, I think let's talk about just kind of where the Big 12 stands right now, because as this season has played out, we just keep saying Arizona, they keep their spot at second place. They keep their spot at first place of the Big 12. After last night's loss, you do drop a spot. You were tied with Houston for first place going into a massive matchup against Houston on Saturday. Could have been a big separator there. Versus if you go into that game with one loss and you beat Houston, there are 2 losses. You have 1 loss. You're setting yourself up for some decent success. Now you're kind of in a position where you have to win, or else Houston's going to have a 2-game lead in the conference. And you're going to have 3 losses in conference to their 1. So I think you lose a little bit of the leeway that you've built up this season with last night's loss. How are you currently feeling about just kind of the vibe around the Big 12 right now, Kevin? Do you still feel like Arizona has a good shot at it, or do you think that last night was going to be pretty pivotal in terms of how it plays out?
I said it earlier, but I think the proper way to describe last night's game really is a missed opportunity, right? Because I don't think that obviously it doesn't completely rule Arizona out, but it does feel like you controlled your own destiny, and you still control your own destiny to an extent. But that win versus K-State last night would have been a lot nicer heading into this Houston game, where now you got to beat Houston if you want a shot at being at the top of the Big 12 regular season title race. And, Damon, I don't want to rule it out, but it does feel like, mathematically, right? Unless Arizona beats Houston on Saturday, they can't do it. And so it feels like a missed opportunity. It feels like a situation where Arizona didn't really give itself the best chance to do.
They can.
Yeah.
It's just you need Houston to lose some basketball games if you lose this one.
Yeah, I guess my point is then you no longer control your own destiny at that point.
True.
Which I think is a spot Arizona was kind of taking pride in, honestly. I think the team was really taking pride in controlling the outcome of their season, and now you're putting yourself in a tough spot in terms of controlling the outcome of the season. So it's not over. A lot of ball left, a lot of games left. Saturday's a huge one. Some may say the Super Bowl, but yeah, I'm excited for Saturday, and I think if Arizona gets that W on Saturday, then they walk out of the Big 12 as regular season title holders.
So you think that this game will be kind of the deciding factor? Like if Arizona beats Houston, you think that's going to catapult them rest of the season, kind of be that springboard that Arizona needs to round out the rest of their schedule. And conversely, you think that'll kind of not derail Houston's season. That's way too dramatic, but kind of just, put a quick bump in the road for them and just really pivotal matchup in general.
I think you've correctly summarized my take on this, because that is exactly how I feel. I think that that this Saturday is kind of the regular season Big 12 championship game. Now, obviously, that's not how these things work, but it does feel that way, right? I think it feels like if Arizona gets the victory, let's say Houston wins out, right? Then I feel like they have the tiebreaker in that situation. And I don't We talked about it pre-show, you and I. Houston has a really tough schedule to end their season. But it's Houston, right? They're totally capable of still continuing to win, despite having a very hard schedule.
Yep.
And I feel like this is a game Arizona needs, like if in terms of the Big 12 title race.
Yeah, I mean, they absolutely do need it. I think this would spell, here's where I'm at with it. I think it would spell the end of Arizona's hopes for winning the Big 12 title. Yes. I think that would effectively end that. Arizona could still finish second and would probably still be the favorites to finish second. But yeah, I think that first place would be pretty much off the board because you'd need too much help from a Houston perspective, and you'd need to basically kind of like run the table, lose one game, maybe rest of the way. Which is going to be a tough task given the remainder of the schedule, which we'll get into on the next segment. But yeah, I think I wouldn't say that it would lock it up, I guess, is kind of where I'm at, because I still think Houston is such a damn good team. And I know they have a tough schedule too. But yeah, I feel like Arizona is still going to need to continue to treat every game like the Super Bowl if they win that Houston game, because it well and truly could be, because you're merely tied with Houston if you beat them.
Yeah.
It's not as if you're really above them. You have the tiebreaker as you mentioned, Kevin, but you're not jumping them necessarily. You're the same record as them. So yeah, I think that really it's going to be pivotal for Arizona and make or break for Arizona. But I still think Houston, if they lose to Arizona on the road, they're not going to, especially because I think it'll be a close game. Like, I don't really see a world where Arizona is able to like blow out Houston. The way Houston plays basketball, they're not really privy to or prone to getting blown out, I don't think. When was the last time that happened? I'll have to look into it, but I bet it's been a really, really long time. I think that Houston would look at it and say, hey, we lost a close one to Arizona in Tucson at McKale Center. Like, happens, man, happens. But let's move on to the next one. And then it's kind of a 50-50 neck and neck battle rest of the way between Arizona and Houston, depending on how the season plays out.
Damon, can I give you a stat?
I'd love a stat.
Oh my word. So I'm looking at Houston's schedule right now just to see, because they do have some losses. And you said, you wanted to find out when the last time they got blown out was. They haven't got blown out this season. They did lose their second game of the year to Auburn by 15.
Number one, Auburn.
Yeah, number one, Auburn. But here's a stat I wanted to give you. They only have 3 other losses. All of them came in overtime. And the total margin between the 3 losses, 9 points.
Sounds about right, man.
That's unbelievable. 3 losses.
It's hard to beat them.
All in overtime with less than 10 points differentiating you between your opponent. It's gonna be a really tough battle on Saturday, Damon. I don't know.
Yeah, it's time for prison ball, Kevin.
Yeah,
we've talked about it.
It is.
Houston's just a team full of dogs.
Yeah,
and Arizona, I think, has kind of built themselves in that same token. They've tried to, at least.
The Gritty Boys, man.
Yeah, it is, but I think that it's tough to match the team that does that the best in the whole country, right? Like, Houston is the pinnacle of playing that style of basketball. And yeah, Tommy's tried to take that and kind of mold his system around players that play that way and tried to make them, kind of better offensive players and whatnot. But I do think that, yeah, it's going to be it's tough to match the guys that you're kind of trying to replicate in a sense, because that's who they are. It's who they've been for half a decade now. And Arizona's just for the first time really trying to play that physical brand of basketball, that physical defense and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I think I'll tell you what, like, I know that you could say this pretty much for every game the remainder of the way, especially the big games. But man, do I really think Caleb Love is the X factor in this one. Like, you're going to, against a Houston team that plays that good a defense, you need contested makes. You need them, Kevin. And yeah. Caleb Love, whether he's been that guy or not all season long, is the go-to dude when it comes to, we need a contested bucket right now. Score on him. And yeah, I mean, I think you're going to need a decent Caleb Love game, if not a very, very good one, if you want to knock down Houston.
Damon, I wrote it in our show notes today that I think Caleb Love's due for one of these games.
Oh,
0 for
for
7
sure.
last game, 3 for 15 from the field last game.
Yeah.
It seems like Mr. Love is due for an explosive offensive performance, and I hope this Saturday is the day that we get that, right? And you and I are going to get into it a little bit in our next segment, but I think we're past the point of expecting Caleb Love to be Caleb Love every game, and I think we just got to be thankful for when he is. You know what I mean? Because this is clearly a player playing through a lot of adversity this season. And I know it sounds crazy, but I think we really just got to be thankful for when he does ball out and not worry too much about games like last night, because we've seen enough of that to know that that's possible. And we've also seen enough of the positive to know that that's possible too. So it's kind of like an unpredictable variable, the Caleb Love effect, right? The Caleb Love experience is kind of this unpredictable and enigmatic, like mysterious kind of will he, won't he kind of thing. And yeah, I'm excited for Saturday because I think it's going to be, I agree with you. I think Caleb Love is going to be the X factor in that game. I'm trying to think of, someone else that might be the X factor, but when you're playing a team like Houston, you're right. You need a tough shot maker. You really do. And
he's
Caleb
that
Love,
guy.
Yeah, and Caleb Love can be that guy. And so, yeah,
I think that's what he's getting paid, 7-figure NIL deal for, is to be that guy. Like he needs to be a contested shot maker. That's who he's been his entire career. So you need him to, play better than he has to this point in the season. I will push back on one thing you said there, and maybe you're going to tell me that maybe you didn't necessarily mean it in this way, but I think it's totally fair to worry about when Caleb Love has bad games, because he's the guy that is not supposed to have bad games. He's a fifth-year senior with more experience than any player on this entire roster. And the fact that he's been the most inconsistent player for the entire portion of this season is deeply concerning. And I understand your point of at some point you just kind of got to get used to the poor performances, because we've seen enough of them. I still think that as an Arizona basketball fan that has extremely high expectations for this team, I'm going to worry about every single poor Caleb Love performance, because you just can't have it if you want to make it to where this team can go. And I think this team's ceiling is so high. I think it's a national championship, Kevin, but the floor is also extremely low because of how Caleb Love has played this season in large part. Arizona could lose in the first round, I wouldn't be shocked. They could win the national championship, I wouldn't be shocked. I think that this team is so volatile in that way. So it's going to be interesting to watch play out. But I'm going to damn sure worry about it the whole time.
Yeah, I think worry was the wrong word. And I appreciate you calling me out for that, because that isn't what I meant. I think when Caleb Love has a bad game, and I think my point I was trying to make was that I don't look at the K-State game and think that it affects the Houston game, right? I think each performance from Caleb Love is a case-by-case individual basis. I think I'm kind of over being is he building momentum up to being the guy again? Or, I think it's game by game, case by case. And so, yes, we should worry when he's 0 for 7 from the 3, like he was last night in a game where you lose by 3. But I don't think that's going to affect my analysis for the Houston game. I know I said he's due after that game, but I say that kind of in jest, right? But he is due. But I don't think that I'm breaking down the Houston game Caleb Love 0 for 7 against K-State, but he balled out against TCU in November. I think
Tommy's doing.
Yeah, I know. Tommy's hey, 2 months ago, this guy was the best player in the country. So
do you remember that 33.7 rebound, 7 assist performance, 0 turnovers? You remember that?
Yeah, man. So yeah, I think I appreciate you for calling me out on that, because that isn't what I meant. But I do think that I
assume so.
I don't carry that into the Houston game, and I'm sure Caleb Love doesn't either, right? So why should we?
Yeah, and last time we got it was a big game, was the Iowa State game, and Dennis Love put on his story basically he's going to ball out today. My son's going to ball out today. And yeah, it was a rough, horrible start for Caleb Love in that game, and then he wins you the game with his performance from a half court shot to just dominating overtime. So I hopefully we get more of the same. If we can get, I'll take this. I'll tell you what, Kevin. I'll take Caleb Love struggling against the Kansas States of the world if he balls out against the Houstons of the world.
Oh yeah.
Will that happen? I don't know. But is there a correlation there? Absolutely not. But I'm just telling you, even if it's just the coincidence of he's getting up for the big games and he's struggling for the some of the more lowly opponents, I'm totally fine with that. Because I think Arizona needs Caleb Love in these big matchups, and they can kind of get away with it as we saw last night. Like, I know the rest of the team played like garbage and you lose by 3 with Caleb Love being even worse than garbage. So it's like if the rest of the team plays fine, you win that game even with Caleb playing bad, right?
Yeah.
And vice versa. What you can't have is both those things happening at the same time. Because if Caleb Love's not making contested shots and the rest of the team is not playing well, that's a recipe for disaster. We're going to buy and sell, Kevin, with our friends over at Carol Royce team. And we got some fun questions for you. And if you're in the chat, make sure you're getting interactive with it. If you're in the chat, make sure you also leave a like on this video. Helps us out dearly. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be good vibes here on this buy or sell segment. We're going to get into it right after this break.
You know, Damon, I really, really wish I had a good appetite because I am dying for some Spinato's pizza. I haven't had anything of substance really over the last couple of days, and maybe the first meal of my free life, I will have Spinato's because Spinato's is not only the place to be if you want delicious pizza, but if you're a Suns fan, it's the place to be to also watch Suns basketball. They have Suns watch parties where you can even watch with the dancers of the Suns team and the gorilla. That's my favorite part about it. They're also doing a basketball horse contest, but instead of spelling horse, you spell pizza because it's Spinato's and they're on brand with their pizza. Both the parties and the contests give fans a chance to win free Suns tickets and free pizza. So feel free to incorporate, you know what I'm saying, your Suns viewing with your pizza eating at Spinato's. It's the place to be for Suns fans. So mark your calendars. The excitement starts at Spinato's, where you can win free pizza for a year and free tickets to the Suns game on April 9th. Get all the info on watch parties and pizza basketball contests at SpinatosPizzeria.com. Spinato's, the official pizza of the Phoenix Suns.
Yep. We actually went out to the Phoenix Raceway last year around this time to go to this Shriner Children's 500. I was out there with a lot of our crew. We filmed some content, and it was actually a total blast, Kevin. If you're looking for something to do on the weekend of March 7th through 9th, head on out to the Shriner Children's 500 at Phoenix Raceway in the Estrella Foothills. It's a 1 mile oval raceway, and you get to watch cars go 200 miles per hour around it. It's absolutely electric. There's tons of fanfare, whole RV section, food trucks, anything that you want. They got some booths set up. Like, it is just an electric time out there. We had so much fun. Kevin, this is how the vibes are out there. We were walking out there. Our former social media person, Michaela, was out there with us. We were filming content. Derek and Michaela were kind of the people on camera for this kind of event. And we're walking around in the RV section and people just offering us up beer. Hey, you want to shotgun a beer with us? That's the vibes out there at the Phoenix Raceway. Everybody's just family. We're all just hanging out. Everybody's drinking. It's a good time. Like, if you're looking for something to do, I'm telling you, this is going to be a lot of fun. March 7th through 9th, you know the weather is going to be beautiful out there. It's like the best time of year in Arizona to hang out. Gotta love early spring here in Arizona. So yeah, head on out over there. There's going to be 40 drivers competing. Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Bubba Wallace, all the GOATs out
Big
there
Bubba.
on the track. And it's a best-in-class fan experience for the whole family. So get your tickets now at phoenixraceway.com.
And it's right after my birthday. So, like, if you just celebrated my birthday on March 4th with me with a huge victory over Arizona State in basketball, then follow us out to the Phoenix Raceway. You know what I mean? Well, it's huge. It's my birthday. You know, if we lose on my birthday, catastrophic.
At McHale to ASU, yeah, that would be catastrophic.
Oh, don't even bring it up. But yeah, Phoenix Raceway, right after my birthday, you know where to be.
Kevin is a big birthday guy. I just I have never known Kevin since he's had a birthday, but I've known Kevin for long enough and know Kevin well enough to know that, like, he's like the type of dude who's like on his birthday, he's like birthday week, he's tweeting like, it's my birthday week, just so everybody knows. And then he puts in parentheses like Thursday, just so the people can tell my boy here happy birthday. I'm the complete opposite. I know that's a shock. Me and Kevin just on the opposite sides of the spectrum. I'm just like, on my birthday, I'm just like, whatever, it's Tuesday. Let's have a regular work day. I'll be here at the office until 8:30. But yeah, yeah.
I usually I'm bad at celebrating my birthday. Like I don't usually plan it far out enough to really have like a big bash or anything crazy. But I do like treat myself around my birthday. Like I'm not really like a huge like, throw a big massive party on my birthday, but I am a big like you should treat yourself on your birthday because you only get one of those a year. So it's a nice thing to celebrate when it's coming back around. You know what I mean? But one thing that we're going to do is we're about to buy or sell with our friends over at Carroll Royce. This segment obviously brought to you by Carroll Royce Realty Team, your home sold guaranteed realty. Damon, our first topic, Arizona showed major red flags in loss to Kansas State. You're buying, I'm selling. Why do you buy? And I'll tell you why I sell.
Yeah. I feel like that was how Arizona is going to lose in the tournament. I think that exact formula, Kansas State just wrote the book on how you defend Arizona if you want to beat them, especially if you're a team that's maybe overmatched per se. I know Kansas State's not like a bad, untalented team, but Arizona clearly on paper is more talented, right? So I think the book just got written on how to beat this Arizona team. And I think that, whatever first, second round matchup Arizona plays against in the tournament is going to try to match that almost to a T. So I guess that's kind of where I'm at. Collapse the paint. Hope Caleb Love doesn't hit contested shots and, take away kind of the front court presence of Arizona and their ability to get to the basket. And then, on the other end, I know Kansas State didn't hit a lot of threes, but they didn't need to. They still won anyway. They had one guy, basically, who was hitting shots at an effective rate in Doug McDaniel. And I feel like that's kind of how Arizona's been losing games all season long, all Tommy Lloyd era is you got one guy who, for the other team, kind of just steps up and just can't miss making circus shots like Doug McDaniel was last night. So, yeah, I think that's why it's a red flag for me, because that felt reminiscent of how every single big loss for an Arizona game happens. And it was concerning.
I'm selling this topic only because I don't think that these were any red flags that when Arizona, we talked about it ad nauseum, right? But when Arizona shoots 2 for 22 from three, other team gets 14 steals. Arizona has 17 total turnovers. You get outscored points on turnovers by 13. It just kind of felt like an outlier in a bad way for Arizona, right? And I think there is credence to there's value to what you had to say about how if you're going to lose in the tournament, this is kind of what it's going to look like, right? And I think you're right, but I also think this isn't the first game that we've learned that lesson this year, right? And I think, like you said, the strategy to beat Arizona is get really physical, force them to hit threes, and hope they can't outshoot you, right? And I just don't think that was the first time we've seen that last night. And I think last night's loss was more about the outlier on offense having an awful night than it was about Arizona being like, not that you said this, but Arizona being like exposed for like having weakness in certain area. Like we knew Arizona is not a really good shooting team. They're one of the worst shooting teams in the conference, right? From three. But yeah, so I'm selling this because I don't think Arizona showed any new red flags last night. And I think the loss was mostly because of an outlier performance from Arizona in a bad way than it was about them getting exposed for their red flags.
I guess the only pushback I'll have on that is that Kansas State also had a really, really bad offensive game, which I don't think that they're not the offensive team that Arizona is, but it's not as if it wasn't happening on the other side of the floor as well, And I also like maybe you're right in the sense that it's not new red flags, but I think that this is the red flags, like the major red flags that reappeared for this team. Like it's not like this is the first time we've seen it all year long, but I do think that this was the first time we've seen it really in Big-12 play of Arizona's struggles and just kind of the blueprint on how to beat this Arizona team.
Yeah, I do agree with you. Sorry, I had myself muted there because my dog wanted to bark. I think my dog was so upset that Arizona played the way it did last night that it wanted to interject. Jack wanted to say, Kevin, you're wrong. Damon's right.
Jack is probably the most passionate Arizona basketball fan I've ever met in my life. The guy just loves. It's weird. He's a dog, but he loves his cats, man. He loves his cats.
Gets along well with others, does Jack. But yeah, I think there's points, I think, on both sides of what we're saying here that, Arizona played unacceptably bad last night. Really exaggerated their already existing weaknesses. But I don't think any new weaknesses showed up. But I guess if you're showcasing the same ones, it's about the same, right? But I sell regardless. Topic number 2. Tommy Lloyd is to blame for last night's loss to Kansas State. We are both selling because that is a whole bunch of BS. Tommy Lloyd is not to blame for last night's loss. Damon, why do you feel that way? And then I'll say why I feel that way.
Because Tommy Lloyd is not the reason that Arizona shot 2 of 22 from 3 or whatever it ended up being. I want, is the solution for Tommy to go out there himself, suit up and hit threes? Like, I'd love to see it.
I'd love to see that.
I'm pretty sure he exhausted all of his NCAA eligibility when he was playing basketball. But, I like, that's not on him. I thought a lot of them were good looks that Arizona just flat out missed. And yeah, I mean, that's that. I think that's a huge portion of it. I will admit that, like, I was seeing red when 6 seconds left. We're throwing Hail Mary passes down the court. That's inexcusable to me. And that does, in my opinion, fall squarely on Tommy. Even if Jaden Bradley like disobeyed Tommy in a sense, and like that was not the game plan, that's still on Tommy, right? If he can't corral his guys and get them to play the way he needs to, like, that's still on the coach at the end of the day. So yeah, in that particular play, I was incensed. I thought that was egregious. Similar to Iowa State when Jaden Bradley's taken a side fadeaway 3 on a side out of bounds down 3 to tie the game. Like, that's inexcusable to me. But that being said, I don't think that this loss was on Tommy. The loss was on the fact that Arizona just couldn't make shots that they typically make on an average night.
I'm totally with everything you said there, Damon. I think that Tommy Lloyd can't go out there and make sure they turn the ball over less himself. He can't make the passes any less lazy. And he can't inject his players with literal energy, right? If they're tired. I know people last night were saying, well, they're gassed. And I don't really care about that. But it's not Tommy Lloyd's fault that Arizona lost this game last night. If you want to try to blame Tommy Lloyd, like Damon said, you're going to be talking about the inbound at the end of the game. And even that, we don't fully know how much lands on Tommy Lloyd. You have to assume that it lands on Tommy Lloyd because he is the head coach. But no, last night's loss was not due to Tommy Lloyd. People online saying that it was due to Tommy Lloyd gotta calm down. Tommy Lloyd, we keep saying it every time. I feel like every time Arizona loses, there are these people that, crawl out of the woodworks and are like, oh, it's Tommy Lloyd, got to get rid of him. I'd rather have, and then they never volunteer a name. They never volunteer a name. They just say like, oh, Tommy's not good at this. Tommy's not good at that. But it's like it's like people who talk about the All-Star game in the NBA, Damon, and they're like, so-and-so should not be an All-Star or so-and-so shouldn't have won MVP. And then when you ask them like, well, who should have taken their place? They never really know. And I think like that's how I feel about this Tommy Lloyd thing is there's not like more than 4 coaches in the country I'd rather have than Tommy Lloyd, right? And I think when Arizona does lose and fans blame Tommy Lloyd for that loss, I think those people need to take a step back and like look at the game they just watched and think about, no, it's not Tommy Lloyd's fault that the Arizona Wildcats turned the ball over as much as they did. No, it's not Tommy Lloyd's fault that Arizona couldn't hit an open 3 to save their life last night. Like, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, I'm with you on this. I'm selling that Tommy Lloyd is to blame for last night's loss versus Kansas State. You got any more to say on that, Damon?
Yeah, I think that the people that come out of the woodwork every loss on Tommy are big Sean Miller stans. And listen, I love Sean Miller. He was a phenomenal coach for Arizona, but I think that those people are insane. The fact that Because I really do believe that's the majority of those folks. Like they were mad when Sean Miller got fired, so they take it out on Tommy Lloyd when that's not really fair to Tommy at all. When I know Sean Miller got off to a little bit of a hotter start than Tommy did in terms of tournament success, but in terms of regular season success, it's not even close.
Yeah.
And you're kidding yourself if you think you'd rather have Sean Miller right now over Tommy Lloyd. So I would imagine that that's where most of those people are coming from. I don't know if they'd say that out loud, but I think that that's kind of where their thought process is deep down in their soul.
Maybe they don't even know it, Damon. Maybe they don't even know why they hate Tommy Lloyd. Maybe they just maybe you saying that is going to be the aha moment for these people of like, oh my God, I am just a Sean Miller stan at the end of the day. I should not hate on Tommy Lloyd just because I have appreciation for another coach. So well said. Well said.
That's kind of that's just my opinion. I guess I have no factual evidence to prove that, but I believe that that's kind of where they're coming from. Let's head on over to our third topic, Kevin. We got, will Arizona's Teteroa McMillan be a top 10 pick? My best friend, Teteroa McMillan, be a top 10 pick in this year's NFL draft. Kevin, we're both buying. Give me your thought process here.
I am buying because, if you look at all the mock drafts, T-Mac is somewhere in that. And you would know better than me, our resident Cardinals guy, Damon Dog, always locked in on the NFL and such. But
yeah,
from all the mock drafts I've seen, they have him going in that 6 to 10 range. And so I feel like I hope he doesn't become a Panther. I genuinely don't.
Here's the bad thing about this, Kevin, and I'm sure we'll get into this more as we're leading into the draft and whatnot, but like the teams in which T-Mac could go to are all pretty disgusting. Like none of them are great options. Outside
the Pats are a good option.
That's the only one. And for me, that's a bad option. So
I love that option.
See, that's gross. You love that option?
Huh?
You love that option?
I do. I think because I'm sure there is a more Patriots guy, but like T-Mac is very New England Patriot coded. Like he is business first. He doesn't yap a lot. He wouldn't have to change any of his color schemes from navy and red. He would.
But they're swagless, Kevin. That's a swagless organization.
I don't know. I feel like
they're post Tom and Belichick.
I think T-Mac has a lot of swag.
Vrabel.
I think T-Mac has a lot of swag, but I think ultimately he'll bring some sand to the beach. You know what I mean? Like the way that he plays is so undeniably cool looking that it doesn't matter what team he plays for. Like I don't care if the history of the Patriots is swagless or whatnot. I think, like you said, with Vrabel and Drake May and possibly T-Mac,
I think situation.
Christian Gonzalez. Like I think you're looking at a more swaggy team. But swag aside, I could just see T-Mac playing in Foxborough, doing his thing in the AFC East, right?
Here's where I'm at with that. And I agree with you that it's by far the best option. We'll run through some of these teams real quick, but I just want to say that I already had to witness Rob Gronkowski in a Patriots uniform for his entire career. And that obviously went, not at the end there, but for, 90% of his career. And that obviously went fantastic. I love Gronk. I was rooting for Gronk the entire way. But as a guy whose favorite team is also in the Patriots division, that was hard. Having to be the U of A guy that all of us U of A fans are rooting for and repping is just dominant with Tom Brady and just, winning the division year in and year out. Like that was tough to take, man. And it was hard to kind of get like over that hurdle. Teddy Bruschi, another Arizona legend, Patriot legend, like they do kind of have a pipeline a little bit going there. And so from that perspective, maybe it would be a good thing for Arizona fans that are neutral on the Patriots. But I just feel like I can't take it anymore, Kevin. I'm so done with all of these Patriots guys or all these Arizona legends becoming Patriots legends and just like putting it in my face twice a year. I hate it. But yes, let me run through these teams real quick and talk about teams that, probably would be looking at a receiver in this portion of the draft. I think
real quick though, Damon, I just want to interject and say I want to thank you for being a man about the situation and truly being honest about, because let's be real, you don't give a damn about none of the swagger, you don't give a damn about none of the cool factor of the team he's going to. You just don't want to see him twice a year. I get it. And I can't believe it took me this long to think about that. But I'm glad you were the bigger man and you said, you know what, look, all that aside, I just don't want to see him. I just don't want to play against them. And so, I appreciate that. Now, please run through those teams.
Yes. So you look at, we'll just run through the top 10. I'll go through every team real quick because some teams we can just kind of cancel off, I think, from the jump. Tennessee, number 1, they're not picking him first overall. So I think we can move on from that. They do need a receiver, but they're not picking him first overall. Cleveland, number 2, also needs a receiver. Also don't believe that they're picking a receiver with the 2nd overall pick. And if they did with either one of those teams, I think Travis Hunter would probably be the guy. And he's not a true receiver, but he, plays both sides of the football. The Giants just picked Malik Neighbors in top 5 of last year's draft. I think that eliminates them from picking another receiver here. Then you have the Patriots at 4. I think that's the earliest spot that makes sense. I think the Patriots, if they really want T-Mac, will probably try to trade down a couple spots to the latter half of the top 10 to get him. That would be my guess, because I think 4 might be a little rich for him. But I do think that's kind of where the first realistic team comes in to play. And, we talked about that team already. The Jags at 5, I think that's off the table. Brian Thomas Jr. just had an unbelievable season last year for the Jaguars. Here's the next team I think makes sense. The Raiders at 6. I think the Raiders at 6 makes sense because their best receiver is Jacoby Myers. They have Brock Bowers, but he's a tight end. They clearly need that young receiver to build around because Jacoby Myers is close to 30 years old as well. And I'll be honest, like, I'm not a Raiders guy. My mom's a Broncos fan. She hates the Raiders. I know she would hate this personally, but T-Mac on the Raiders would be kind of cool.
It would be awesome.
You're gonna tell me T-Mac Raiders jersey doesn't go super hard?
I'm buying
with the black and silver in Vegas. I think that would be, from a swag perspective, that might be top dog choice. But also Raiders, garbage organization year in, year out. From a T-Mac's future standpoint, I think that would be worse than the Patriots, for example.
1,000%. They don't even got a quarterback right now.
Yeah, they don't have a quarterback. They do have Pete Carroll now, which, I think that'd be a cool coach to play for. But, Mike Vrabel is a little bit younger, probably factors to stay in New England a little bit longer than Pete Carroll factors to stay in Las Vegas. So, yeah, I think right now you're looking at Patriots 4, Raiders 6. Jets 7 is honestly kind of interesting. I would personally hate this much more than the Patriots just because I hate the Jets so much, and they're an awful organization. So, they'd probably ruin him, but they have Devontae Adams. They're going to get rid of him. I think Garrett Wilson is still there, but they have no other guy outside of that because they're going to get rid of Lazard too with Rodgers leaving. So I think that they do need another receiver. I don't know that they use a top 10 pick on one, but they certainly need another receiver. Just something to keep an eye on. I think that this one here is the most likely one, and you already brought it up. The Panthers at 8. The Panthers need a receiver like they need oxygen to breathe. Xavier Legette was kind of disappointing as a rookie, even though he was a first-round pick last year.
You don't like to get the squirrel either?
Take the clothes off that boy.
Took the clothes off that boy.
Top tier dude, maybe not a top tier receiver. Yeah. Adam Thielen getting older. That's not a guy you build around. I think T-Mac, if the Panthers are truly looking at trying to build around Bryce Young and give him the tools to success, I think T-Mac at 8 makes tons of sense. And I actually, if you had to ask me right now, I'd say that would be the pick. And the Panthers have had good years in recent memory. It's not like that it's been all bad. But that's another team that kind of feels gross. Like you kind of want T-Mac on a little bit more relevant of a franchise than that. You talk
about bad franchises. The Panthers are at the top of that list. Like David Tepper, the way he's running that franchise, spilling drinks on people. Like, I don't need T-Mac around that guy. Like, I don't want T-Mac around that psycho where he drops a pass and then David Tepper is at practice in the upper suite going, "Don't drop that ball. What are you doing?" It's like, all right, bro. Like, you get down here and run some routes then, big man. Like, you know what I mean? So I would love to see T-Mac go anywhere but there. I think you bring up a good point about Xavier Legette maybe not being a number one guy. Because when you brought up Brock Bowers, I was like, wow, the size between Brock Bowers and T-Mac would be really hard to match up with, right? And I think T-Mac as an eventual number one and Xavier Legette maybe as an eventual number two. That's a really nice 1-2 combo, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's got some juice to it. I mean, you at least you project that to be pretty solid.
Yes.
I mean, that's
Yes.
you need Xavier to get to improve, but he has a lot of potential and he's a very young receiver, very athletic. So I think that those two, yeah, as a 1-2 combo, you look at that and you project it out to be like, we're set here for the time being. Big T here puts in the chat, lots of mock drafts have T-Mac going to the Saints. That's the 9th overall pick. I think that that's semi-interesting as well. I think that might be worst case scenario outside of maybe the Jets, because there's no quarterback there at all. And what's the avenue?
And Spencer Rattler, Arizona legend, the state of Arizona legend.
There's
Spencer
no avenue
Rattler.
for a quarterback either. It's
Yeah, no,
just
there's not.
it's just Spencer. I think the Saints are going to get like the number 1 overall pick next year, which actually you could probably argue that one bad year of rookie year for T-Mac, and then they get the number 1 overall pick and get Arch Manning next year. That could be unreal. So maybe that is what we should be rooting for.
Yeah, I mean, that's when you put that reality out in the universe, I feel like that's what I really want to see. I really want to see T-Mac like be like the 1-2 tandem of a young quarterback that can grow with T-Mac. I think that'd be really awesome,
Yeah, that would be actually, now that kind of has popped in my head, I think that might even be like, I say the Saints might be worst case from maybe a year 1 perspective, but they genuinely might be best case from a like overall perspective, just because of that. Like, I think the Saints are going to be bad. Arch Manning to the Saints makes too much damn sense. He's from Louisiana. His grandpa Archie literally played for the Saints. Like, the Mannings like run New Orleans. I think that would be like a crazy kind of like, hey, let's get Arch Manning in a situation where he already has a built-in number 1 receiver. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I feel like the city of New Orleans would absolutely love T-Mac. Like, I could totally see T-Mac like becoming charitably involved in the city and really making a connection. But we do have some more buy or sell topics, unless Damon has more to say.
I was just going to round out the top 10 here. Bears at the 10th pick. I think there's no chance there. So I think that what you're looking at is probably Patriots, Raiders, Panthers, Saints, one of those 4 teams. And I think that, everyone can kind of make their own decision on whether or not, those teams are good situations or not. But those are the 4 teams I'm looking at. You also got the Cowboys at 12, the Dolphins at 13, teams that maybe could pick a receiver. You never know. The Dolphins, obviously, I think that would come with a Tyreek Hill trade. But yeah, I don't think his floor is much lower than that. And there's also the possibility some team trades up for him. But yeah, I think Patriots, Raiders, Saints, Panthers. Those are the 4 teams. And yeah, hopefully it's a good situation for T-Mac. Let's get into our next buy or sell topic here, Kevin. This one's an interesting one.
It is. Arizona will finish over 500 in their remaining games on the season. I was looking at it, and KenPom actually predicts that Arizona will go 3-4 to finish the year, with losses to pretty much all the good teams Arizona plays to end the year. KenPom predicts Arizona losing by 2 to Houston, losing by 1 to Baylor, losing by 5 to Iowa State, and losing by 4 to Kansas, with wins over BYU, Utah, and Arizona State. I feel like Arizona is able to flip 1 or 2 of those games. I think like the Baylor game, outside of Houston, because Houston's probably the best team Arizona's going to play over that stretch. You play Baylor like literally 2 days after that. So you play Houston on Saturday, probably travel on Sunday, and then you got Baylor on Monday. So that's a really tough turnaround, especially considering the outcome of that Houston game may or may not be encouraging for Arizona, right? So it's a really tough stretch. But I feel like Kansas can be had. Like, Kansas is really good. But I feel like Kansas can really be had. Iowa State's going to be a brutal game. Yeah, I feel like Arizona does finish over 500, with wins over Baylor and Kansas being the ones that flipped. I made my official prediction for the Houston game on Friday, but not sure yet. So I think Arizona flips the Baylor prediction and the Kansas prediction to finish over 500 for sure.
Yeah, they have here, 7 games remaining. Arizona losing to Houston, losing to Baylor, beating BYU, beating Utah, losing to Iowa State, beating ASU, losing to Kansas. So essentially they have, and we talked about this off air, but The 3 wins they have are, the 3 not good teams that they play on that stretch, and the 4 losses are the 4 good teams that they play. I find it hard to believe, and I think Arizona is really good at handling business and beating teams that they should. I know last night's game didn't happen, but we've talked about that. Like, Kansas State's playing such a good level of basketball right now that I don't think that it's fair to qualify them as like a mid Big 12 team based off of how they were playing. I don't think Arizona is going to lose every tough game the remainder of the stretch. I think that they steal one of those, and that's good enough to be 4-3. So I don't think that that's the ceiling either. I think they could be better than 4-3, but I would be shocked if it's 3-4. I'd be shocked if they lost to every one of these good teams the rest of the way. That would genuinely shock me. So I'm buying that Arizona's finishing over 500 in those 5 games, those 7 games as well, Kevin.
Yeah, I agree with what you had to say there. I also want to bring up the point about Trey Townsend still missing from the lineup. I know he's not our favorite guy on the Arizona team this year, but he does have a role to play. And I think we're noticing with him out of the lineup that Arizona just doesn't have the same depth.
It's an extra body. I mean, there's a huge difference in college between a 7 and an 8-man rotation. Right. I think back to some of the Sean Miller teams that were really, really good. And the starting 5 was incredible. And then you look at the bench unit and it's Elliott Pitts and Gabe York. And you're like, oh, there's 2 players off the bench that are legitimately in their rotation. And one of them is not that great, not very good in Elliott Pitts. So it's like, I feel like, I remember like thinking that the problem with those teams was the lack of depth. It's basically a 6-man rotation of starting caliber players. Arizona now has 3 starting caliber players off their bench. I think that's a huge factor for them, and a huge advantage for Arizona. But if you don't have that, if you subtract it by 1, it kind of becomes now all of a sudden you're a shallow team. You go from your depth being your biggest strength to maybe being your biggest weakness. So that's gonna be a big deal.
Yeah, and I think that, like you said, I just don't believe that Arizona is going to lose to every good team they play the rest of the year, right? That's just not who this Arizona team is. I think Ken Palm's got it wrong in this case. Sometimes the numbers do lie, and I think this is one of those cases. We do have one final buy or sell segment question for today, and that is going to be: will Caleb Love find his shot this season? Not a lot of time left to do it. I'm selling. Damon is buying. I'll go first because I'm Mr. Negative right now. But
let me preface this by saying, for Mr. Negative here, Kevin, I think this might be the first time you've chosen the negative side of a buy or sell segment in terms of how it fares for Arizona's future.
Yeah.
I think that Arizona can get past this. They've done that for a majority of this season where Caleb Love hasn't been finding his shot, and Arizona is still winning basketball games, number 13 team in the country. But it's this is upset of the century here, brother.
Yeah, no,
Mr. Positive turning to Mr. Negative.
Yeah, I was spending too much time with you, Damon, and I think
that's it. Blame me.
I'm just becoming Mr. Heat Miser. You know what I mean? I'm just giving out hot takes left and right, and I'm mad all the time. No, I'm just kidding. But the furrowed brow of the Damon dog. But no, I think you and I kind of touched on this earlier when we were talking about the K-State game. I think it's not that I don't think that Caleb Love is going to have success the rest of the year. That's not what I'm saying by answering sell here. What I'm saying is I don't think he's going to find a consistent shot the rest of the season. Like, I don't think it's going to be, all of a sudden Caleb Love is just on fire for 2 weeks at a time. And, he has a 4-game stretch without a bad game. I think this is fair. I think this is one of those situations where, like I said earlier, it's game by game. Let's take it case by case. And if he succeeds in one, it's not a guarantee that he's going to succeed in the next. And that's okay, right? To an extent. But I think we've had too much time with evidence otherwise this season to think that Caleb Love is going to find his stride and find a consistently high percentage shot the rest of the year. So I'm selling. But that does not mean that I don't think that Caleb Love can find success the rest of the year, or that he won't be able to score, or that he won't be able to contribute in other ways. I just don't think his shot's going to be consistent this season, and that's just what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I guess the question is, maybe I viewed it a little bit differently than you. So, because I kind of do, I agree with you in the sense that, like, I don't know if it'll be consistent, but I do think that we're going to be, I don't know if this is just blind optimism or what, but I just have a feeling, man, that Caleb Love's going to show up when this team needs him. I really do. I don't know why. Maybe it's the fact that he's played poorly for majority of this season that, like, I don't know why, but that gives me kind of a weird confidence that he's going to figure it out eventually, because he's just too good of a basketball player for that to be like that all year long. But I think I'm at the I'm in a place where I think that Caleb Love is going to show up in a big way in a big moment for Arizona, and we're going to look back on this season and people are going to forget about the 36% field goal percentage, and they're going to remember the tournament game that he had that carried Arizona on his own back to the W. You know what I mean? So I guess that's kind of where I was thinking with it. Like, will he find his shot? Well, is he going to shoot 50% from the field or close to it, for remainder of the way? Probably not. But can he get in like the mid 40s range? I would hope so. And I think, Arizona needs him to. But I'm more buying because I just think Caleb Love he's going to do something for this team that is going to be huge. And I don't know why. Maybe I'm buying back in, and I do this to myself every year, and then it ends in disappointment. But I got a good feeling about the way that things are going to go for this team in March. I really do. I think getting battle tested in the Big 12 is going to be huge. I think we've never seen that before with this team, with a Tommy Lloyd team. You've never seen that kind of that testing. So yeah, I have a weird confidence in Caleb Love solely because I just think that he's too good of a basketball player for it to be bad like this all season long. And I'm gonna be blind optimist here, Kevin. And we're gonna switch roles for this question.
Yeah, and for the record, I do think that Caleb Love will still have some big moments for this team. But yeah, in terms of just finding his shot, I just don't think he's got a consistent shot this year. I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know how that happened.
He's just he's too good for him to shoot 35% the whole damn season. I don't get it, man.
But we're so deep into the year now, right? That it's like, I feel like if he was going to turn specifically his percentages around, then it would have started by now, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's why I'm selling this. That's why I'm selling this topic, is because I feel like Caleb Love, while yes, he'll be able to contribute, and while yes, he'll still have some moments for this Arizona team, because he is that guy, right? Caleb Love is the guy in the big games that you need to come through, like on Saturday. Yeah. But I like I said earlier, I think it's case by case. I don't think he's going to be able to find consistency, unfortunately, this season.
Yeah, I'm marking a note here in our little shared notes that we have, Kevin, to mark down, and we're gonna do the math on Caleb Love's shooting percentages post Kansas State game through the rest of the season. I don't know, man. I'm feeling 45%. I'm sticking with that number. I want 45% rest of the way, Kevin.
I want that too. I want it too. Hopefully we get it. But yeah, I think that's a good idea. Let's track his shot the rest of the season, and then we'll actually have a cemented, defined answer to this question.
We will indeed. That was the buy or sell segment. We always love doing it every week with our friends over at Carroll Royce Team, your home sold guaranteed realty. Make sure you guys head on over to Carroll Royce if you're looking to buy or sell your home in the Valley in 2025. But yeah, Kevin, that was a good little Wednesday rip edition of the AZ Wildcats podcast. I had a lot of fun, brother.
I did too. I really miss being in the studio with everybody. So hopefully, I'm off tomorrow. So, Friday, I'm back. That's the goal. So you got to get right, got to get healthy for Saturday. Saturday is the big game. And I'm going to do what like I said last night, but hell or high water, I will be healthy when it matters most. And we'll be back at it, Damon and I.
Love to hear it. You love to hear it. We miss you over here, Kevin. Get right and be back on Friday. We're going to need you. We'll talk about this off air. We might have a big guest for Friday. So everybody stay tuned on our socials. Follow at PHNX_Wildcats on Twitter. And we'll be announcing everything on there Follow me at Damon Dog. That's DAWG. Follow Kevin at Kevo Post. That's KEVOPOSTS. And follow at PHNX_sports as well. That's the main Twitter account. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel on YouTube if you haven't done so already. Shout out the chat today, Kevin.
Yes.
Appreciate everybody. Big T, Erica, Joseph, Matt, all the dogs here, Nick. It was a good little day. And we appreciate you guys as always for getting involved in the chat. If you weren't involved in the chat, hop in next time and converse with us. We love to see your guys' opinions, throw different things up screen and kind of let it kind of flow our conversation there. Any final thoughts, Kevin, before we get out of here? We do have a super chat. Let's hit that.
Ooh, we got a super chat in the chat. All right, AZ Cats G.
Our
Good
guy.
show, guys. We appreciate you, AZ Cats G, for always tuning in, doing your thing in the chat. Salute to you, my friend. But yeah, we really appreciate everyone in the chat. Like Damon said, I appreciate you all putting up with my sick self this week right now. And yeah, Damon, I'm excited for the Houston game. It literally cannot get here soon enough. Like, I want it to be tomorrow. I want to be healthy, but I also want the game to be tomorrow because I can't believe we got to wait a couple more days and the suspense is going to kill me. But yeah, I'm excited. Friday, big preview show, maybe special guest, who knows? But yeah, Damon, that's all I got for you. I'm gonna drink some tea. I'm gonna clean up my house a little bit, and that's gonna be my day.
Lots of electrolytes, brother. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We appreciate it. We will be back on Friday. Everybody have a good Thursday. And until then, bear down.
And go Cats.
We all silly like the mayor.